Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another video on the channel. As you can see in front of me, I have my boy Matt. He is here with me to talk about some win over under totals for this upcoming 2023 NFL season. We're going to go through each team and give our thoughts on their over under win total projections for this season. Matt, before we get into it, anything you want to let the audience know?
Pumped for this season. I think there's a lot of teams that people are either kind of sleeping on or are really overrated on. So I think this is a good first chance to kind of get our overall thoughts out on every team in the league. Throughout the year, we'll be breaking down our favorite picks every week, so that's going to be super fun as well.
Mhm.
But yeah, I think it's a good start. Over unders are pretty tough because injuries, but it's more about kind of giving the overall thoughts on each squad going into the season.
Yeah, and like I told you guys, I was going to do more gambling content on this channel. Matt is going to join me every week throughout the season. We're going to break down a lot of our favorite picks. So this is kind of like an intro to that series, doing all that type of stuff. Starting off, Matt, we got the Arizona Cardinals sitting at 4.5 wins for the year. Over, under, what are you thinking?
I think it's pretty simple. Under if Kyler Murray doesn't play like half the season, over if he plays like half the season. So it's really just going to depend. Is Kyler Murray healthy? And that's your answer.
Yeah, there's really no other way to put that. It's the season is dependent on Kyler Murray. I almost would prefer if I was a Cardinals fan to go under just so you can get a top pick, but I mean, who knows? They're not going to be very good regardless. Atlanta Falcons this year sitting at 8-5. I will say, I think the Falcons will have an elite trait in the fact that they can run the shit out of the football, but I still don't know if they're a great team overall. 8.5 seems like a good line, and I can kind of be convinced either way, to be honest.
That's exactly how I'm feeling as well. I mean, they're a team where you're looking at it and you're like, all right, this is kind of exactly where the line should be. I'm very intrigued by this team. Desmond Ritter, year two. I'm not necessarily super high on Desmond Ritter, but he has all the tools to have a successful season. Bijan Robinson, his comp is LaDainian Tomlinson, basically. So you already have the hype with him. This team last year was the third best rushing team in the NFL. So you're going to have an amazing running offense. And then, oh, yeah, outside, you got Drake London, you got Kyle Pitts, you got some young stars in the making right there. And I think this is a team that could surprise a lot of people. They're in one of the worst, if not the very worst division in the sport. So I'm actually really excited about the Falcons season. I think their defense will be like whatever. They added a couple vets and stuff, but they're kind of in a weird spot where like they're going to be probably an average team, but it could be so encouraging if this offense can improve a lot off of last year. And if Desmond Ritter's that guy, they're going to get so hyped up going into next season.
Yeah, it's going to be a matchup nightmare if you do not have a rock solid run defense and you got to play the Falcons. I mean, it's just going to be terrible. Buffalo Bills, moving on to the next team. Over under set at 10.5. I kind of like the over on that. It kind of bugs me that the line is this low. I think it's pretty within the realm of possibility that they win 11 or more games. They've pretty much done that every single year with Josh Allen. I understand, some stuff's been moving around, but they still have Josh Allen. I mean, I think the over on that one is pretty much a certainty.
I'm totally there with you, and I think a lot of people are low on the Bills. And I don't. I think people were like, "Yeah, Josh Allen took a step back." Josh Allen was like, he had like, I think I want to say he had over 40 touchdowns and 5,000 combined yards last year. It's like, dude, if that's a step back, sign me up. And he got blamed for a lot of like late picks and stuff. I don't think people realize how banged up their defense was at the end of last season. Like they were a shell of themselves. If they're back, they're healthy. They're a little bit older, so they could get hurt. They could get banged up again. If they are back and they're healthy, 12 plus wins is not out of the realm at all. So I'm taking the over on that. I think that's a kind of an easy over. And, worst case, it's like, oh, let's say that the defense does get banged up. If Josh Allen's healthy, they're still probably going to hit
Yeah.
the over. So, like, I like it a lot. I really like that over.
Yeah, they're still a good team regardless because they have number 17 playing quarterback. It doesn't really matter. I think a lot of the other things. Baltimore Ravens, another team set at 10.5 wins. To me, this is a much better line. I think the Ravens are definitely a tier below the Bills. So I think the line, like we said, for the Bills is really good for a betting man to go over. The Ravens at 10.5, I think that's a perfect line for them. You can convince me either way. I would probably lean under just because the division's good, just because Lamar Jackson isn't guaranteed to be healthy for 17 games. But you could make a good argument over, but I'd probably lean under, to be honest. What do you think, Matt?
I think you're right. I think this is kind of perfect where the line is. And when we get into these NFC North teams, we're gonna notice right away that, hey, it's it's not very clear for a lot of these teams. It's getting like this is a good division, so I could see it going either way. I think the biggest thing with them is going to be how healthy are they? Because we already see Marlon Humphreys out for a few weeks. That is massive to start the year. That hurts them a lot. J.K. Dobbins just barely returned to practice. Like, so it's rough on that front. Lamar Jackson, is he going to be healthy? Is he going to be able to take a step in, in an offense where you lose maybe the worst offensive coordinator ever, not ever, but in a minute in Greg Roman. Some
The
of those
worst
passing
coach of all
concepts.
time, Greg Roman.
No, but yeah, you're talking to a 49ers fan here. So I have a lot of hatred for Greg Roman after that Super Bowl. But I mean, I think they're good, but it's like it's a question mark. How good is Zay Flowers? Like it's a harder team, especially with so many like vets and so much like continuity for the most part with the Ravens. It's really weird. So I'm staying away from that. If I had to bet, I love Lamar Jackson. I like a lot of the stuff that the Ravens got going for them. So I would take the over, like just like from like my heart, because I
Yeah.
like the guys, but
Yeah.
like it is scary. It is really scary.
All right. Carolina Panthers. The line is at 7.5. I think that is it's a little bit high, to be honest. I don't know if the Panthers are an 8-9 win team. Again, we talk about this all the time, Matt. Rookie quarterbacks are not good year one, 90% of the time. Don't let Justin Herbert fool you. Don't let these other guys fool you. Rookie quarterbacks, statistically, historically, are not great in year one. The weapons on offense are really nothing special. DJ Chark, Adam Thielen, crusty old ass Adam Thielen. That doesn't really move me, to be honest. I think they're going to struggle, but it isn't about this year. Unfortunately for the Panthers, though, the Bears own their first round pick for next year, so they probably should try to be pretty good this year. But I don't think they're going to be very good. I'll probably take the under on 7.5 wins.
Yeah, I'm taking the under on this, and something sneaky with this whole trade with this whole trade going after Bryce Young and having him as like your franchise quarterback is one, he's probably not going to be that good this year. You don't have a good offense around him, right? And going further into it, you don't have your first round pick. Marvin Harrison could land in Chicago with the Panthers pick. I will not be surprised if that happens. And then you look at that trade for the Bears, and you're like, damn, bro, you got DJ Moore and
Dude,
Marvin Harrison.
Chef Poles was cooking. He was cooking up. I think that's the
And I
best
and
move
I
of the
will
offseason.
yeah, and I think it is too. And I will say I do think that overall the Panthers do have a good defense. Like they have some building blocks. They're not like just awful, but I think people are expecting Bryce Young to just come in and put up, like a 2-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio. And like if you look back, I mean, what did Trevor Lawrence do? Trevor Lawrence sucked, man. So it's it's tough.
And I
I think
also
they're
will
gonna.
say it's totally plausible that Bryce Young gets just creamed one day and has to miss like 4 games. I mean, I love Bryce Young. I had him as quarterback one. You guys know I'm an Alabama fan. Bryce Young, if he gets smacked, is going to be out for a while. So a little bit worried about the Panthers there. Another team that is sitting at 7.5 for the over/under win total is the Chicago Bears. We just mentioned got DJ Moore in the trade, drafted Darnell Wright with the first round pick that the Panthers gave him. Made a lot of improvements in free agency with the defense, Trayman Edmonds, TJ Edwards, Nate Davis, a lot of those other guys. 7.5 to me seems low. I'm pretty high on the Bears. I think they're going to take a step forward. I'm probably going to smash the over on this one, Matt.
So I'm all in on Justin Fields in fantasy and real life and whatever. I think he's a future top 5 quarterback in the league. However, I think that their offense is going to improve quite a bit. I still have question marks about the defense. I think that they're going to be around that win total. I wouldn't like smash the over, but like if I had to take it, I would probably take the over. But like I don't know, I'm expecting like 7 to 9 wins. Maybe you somehow sneak into a wild card because you have a couple games where Justin Fields wins it in the end, at that, final play, final couple of plays, final drive, whatever that is. Um, but I still think their defense is a little bit away. Like I don't think they're really ready to like truly contend yet, but you own 2 first rounders next year. We just talked about the Panthers first rounder. The only thing that matters this year for the Bears is does Justin Fields take a step? And I would be shocked if he doesn't take a massive step. He's already talked about how he's going to throw for 4,000 yards. He already looked like, I mean, his game was letting it rip at Ohio State. He wasn't a running quarterback. And last year he put up like a top 3 all-time rushing quarterback season. If Justin Fields goes out and throws for 4,000 yards, the Bears' future is the brightest it has ever been in my lifetime. Non-Bears fan, all right? So I don't follow him, but
Not even your lifetime, dude. We got to go back to like Sid Luckman in the 1940s to see a Bears quarterback. The Bears have never had a 4,000 yard passer, Matt. Never, not even once. So if he throws for 4,000 yards, he's like automatically best quarterback in the history of the Chicago Bears, which is so sad for a franchise that is over 100 years old. But we're not going to bring that up. We're going to focus on the positives of the future. Cincinnati Bengals are the next team on the. In case you haven't noticed, I'm going alphabetically. Cincinnati Bengals, 10.5. I like that line. I'm going to go over. I think if Joe Burrow's calf injury isn't like a big thing, if it is probably as minor as it looks, because I don't know if you saw him a couple days ago, he was jogging on the sidelines, got the compression sleeve on there. If the calf injury is really not a factor for the season going forward, 10.5 wins seems like a good little line. I'm going to go over on it. I think the Bengals are a Super Bowl team. They're probably going to win more than 10.5 games this year. Matt, what do you think?
I mean, like I said, I think it's pretty much perfect. If I had to guess, I'm gonna go the under. I think the Bengals have overperformed a little bit the past 2 years. This isn't to knock them. Like they're still like should be in the playoffs. If they don't make it this year, okay, big whoop-de-doo. Like they're gonna probably be in the mix next year. It's not that big of a deal, but I do think they lost a little bit on defense. I like the pick of Miles Murphy. I think he's kind of low ceiling, high floor kind of guy that's going to come in there and immediately be productive and stuff. Like I think they're all right. I think they're built pretty solid. But it's like so many things can go wrong in the NFC North. The NFC North, or sorry, the AFC North. The AFC North is the best division it's been in quite some time. And I guess maybe not quite some time, but in the last few years at least, Steelers are going to be competitive. The Browns are going to be competitive. The Raven, everyone's competitive in that division. So I think that like maybe they win 9 games, maybe they win 10 games. That would be like my guess of what their season looks like. Is that really that bad of a regression? No, you can still make the playoffs like that. So I'm gonna take the under, but like I'm not gonna bet the under. Like I'm not gonna bet against Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase.
So you're just
Um,
silently
so
hating
yeah,
on Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase, not like publicly.
I am not silently hating on Jamar Chase.
Yeah.
If I'm picking a wide receiver to build my team around, I'm taking Chase over Jefferson. So I don't ever I'm like
Whoa.
I don't ever want to hear that. I think he impacts the game more than Jefferson. I mean it's a coin flip, right? Like who cares? Like oh, you're
Dude,
getting
the
an
Vikings
elite
fan.
wide
Don't let
receiver
Jake watch
one.
this video, bro. Don't let Jake watch this video. He's gonna rip you a new one. Um, Moving on to another team in the AFC North, a team you just mentioned, Cleveland Browns. Their win over under total set at 9.5. I'm gonna let you go to town on this one, and then I'll give my thoughts after. But what do you think about the 9.5 line for the Browns?
I think the Browns are being overrated like they often are. They have some elite players. Amari Cooper on the outside, potentially Deshaun Watson, but I'm not going to really go into that. Offensive line, the offensive line is just, they have a lot of elite players on that line. Nick Chubb, Myles Garrett, Denzel Ward's a good corner. Like they got some pieces, but their head coach is Kevin Stefanski, and Kevin Stefanski is an absolute joke. I'm not picking a Kevin Stefanski team to win 10 games. I know they had a little bit of success with him a couple years back. He sucks. Like you go
Yeah.
watch a Browns game and tell me he doesn't suck. Like he's bad. He's a bad coach. They should have fired him. I don't believe in the Browns. They're probably the worst team in that division. Maybe they don't finish last, but like for how many like elite players they have, you think they would be like almost a lock to be a double-digit win team, and they're not because their coaching staff is inept. So I'm taking the under on the Browns for
And
sure.
ignoring all the off the field stuff, Deshaun Watson hasn't played a full season of football in over 2 years. I mean, there's a real chance that he isn't the guy that he was in Houston years ago. So that's what Browns fans are really banking on, and I just don't know if that's the case. All right, getting into a team that I'm sure we're gonna stir a lot of pots over. Dallas Cowboys are set at 10.5 over under win total. I know we talk about the Cowboys a good bit, and I kind of go back and forth. I'm feeling nice today. I'm feeling it's a good morning. I got a good amount of sleep, so I'm gonna go the over for the Dallas Cowboys. You look at it, the team, very very talented roster, good quarterback, really good wide receiver. I really like Tony Pollard, running back. The offensive line, they just re-signed All Pro Zach Martin, good offensive line, and I think that defense is special. Micah Parsons is a special player. Trayvon Diggs is pretty good. I'm not going to say he's elite because he gets cooked a lot, but he's good. But what makes that defense go is Dan Quinn, one of the best, if not the best defensive coordinators in the entire NFL. I know they have to play Philly twice a year, but I think 10.5 wins is definitely an over for me for the Cowboys. And I think that they're probably an 11-12 win team. What do you think, Matt?
Yeah, I think that they have one of the best rosters in the league. They probably have like the top 3 roster in the NFL. They're stacked, man. Like you look at the offense, they add Brandon Cooks, great addition. They lose Zeke, right? They bring in Deuce Vaughn. A lot of people don't know about Deuce Vaughn. Well, I mean, I guess a lot of people do know about Deuce Vaughn just because he's so small. So oh, Darren Sproles. But he's a good receiving back. Tony Pollard was great last year. Their offensive line is good. They just locked up Zach Martin, so he's going to be playing. The big question mark on offense is going to be Dak Prescott. Can he bounce back after last year? And we're gonna see. We're gonna see. Is Dak just cooked? Like, because his shoulder, like his arm strength was not there last year. So it's a massive year for Dak. Then you go to the defensive side. Dan Quinn, amazing defensive coordinator, one of the best defensive minds in the sport. What do? Oh yeah, they go and sign Stephon Gilmore, and that just gets like overlooked. Bro, they went and got it, and people think that Stephon Gilmore's cooked. He's not. He's still really
solid.
good.
He's still
He's
solid.
good, dude. So they have dudes on that D line. They got DeMarcus Lawrence. They got Micah Parsons. They have a decent linebacking core. Like on the outside, they got Stephon Gilmore and Trayvon Diggs. Like that's a really good 1-2 cornerback punch, and their roster's stacked, and they have such a good coaching staff on the defensive side. It's all going to come down to the offense, but the talent on the offense kind of tells you like they should be able to run the football well. Yeah. And if they can run the football well, and Dak doesn't turn the ball over, you could just keep going up with the win total. Like they can win so many games. So I think the Cowboys are a really good team. Unfortunately, they fall short like every single year in the playoffs to my San Francisco 49ers. So kind of banking on them to win like 12 games. They're probably going to win like 12 games and do that again, if we're being honest.
We get it, bro. You guys are the best. Anyway, one negative I will say about the Cowboys, we mentioned it with the Browns, how we don't like Kevin Stefanski. I think Mike McCarthy is a dipshit. I really do. And I think Kellen Moore leaving, he was just scapegoated for the problems that the Cowboys had, late in the season in the playoffs last year. So watch out for Mike McCarthy absolutely just ruining the Cowboys season and Dak Prescott throwing 30 interceptions. Other than those two things, I think they'll be pretty good. Next, we have another, I guess, hot topic team, Denver Broncos, sitting at 8.5 wins. Obviously had very disappointing season last year with Russell Wilson and the Denver Broncos as a whole. It was just like worst case scenario for the whole season. Like everything that could have gone wrong went wrong. Now they've got Sean Payton, who is one of the best offensive mind Hall of Fame coaches of our time. 8.5 wins, and I still don't like it. I'm sorry. I think I'm going to go under for the Broncos. Russell Wilson, I understand some of it was coaching. He really didn't look good last year, unfortunately. I don't love a lot of the pieces that they have on their team. I don't think they're a top 10 talent-wise team. They play in a great division, the AFC West, two really, really good teams. I don't know, Matt, can you convince me to take the over on the Broncos, or what's going on here?
I think the Broncos probably have the most potential to be like the bounce back team of the year. They won like 4 or 5 games last year. I could easily see them winning double-digit games, making the playoffs, doing all that. But I'm not 100% sold because it's such a massive jump. But then at the same time, let's look at what happened. They went from Nathaniel Hackett to Sean Payton. That is probably the biggest improvement from a head coach ever in NFL history. That is nuts, dude. You're going from a guy that couldn't manage a 2-minute conversion. Peyton Manning, Eli Manning, Shannon Sharp are losing their minds on Monday Night Football, and that was the whole thing all season, right? Everyone's freaking out, like, dude, this is a disaster every week. Their defense is really good. They have a really solid roster defensively. Their secondary is one of the best, if not the best, in the league. And you look at it and you're like, all right, defense is good. Well, good thing you have Sean Payton, a great offensive mind, to kind of work with the offense. They still have pieces there. Cortland Sutton's coming back like a year after injury. Jerry Jeudy, he's good. I think people hate Jerry Jeudy, but it's like, dude, the quarterbacks can't get him the ball. That's kind of been the issue so far. Russell Wilson, I expect him to bounce back. It's not like a lot to get super excited about, but it's because of Sean Payton, man. It's because of Sean Payton working with that offense and having a great defense. So I think that they could be a massive bounce back team. Like they could have one of the better, when you see a team go from 4 wins and then they win 13, there's every once in a while you see that, probably one team a year. They're the biggest candidate to do that this season.
I will say a stat that is very encouraging for me, Matt. I'll ask you this question. Who would you rather have as your quarterback, Russell Wilson or Teddy Bridgewater?
I'd rather have Russ.
Yeah, Russ, which is probably the only nice thing you've said about Russell Wilson, so I appreciate it. But Sean Payton in New Orleans went 5-0 with Teddy Bridgewater as a starting quarterback when Drew Brees was out. I mean, if he can win games with Teddy Bridgewater and a good defense, he can win games with Russell Wilson and a good defense, I think. The next team we got is the Detroit Lions, sitting at 9.5 wins, a team that everybody thinks is going to be the it team this year. They're going to make the most improvements. They're going to take that next step. And it's the Lions, so I'm going to be hesitant a little bit. But I will say, looking at their roster, looking at the guys they've got, looking at their schedule, 9.5 wins seems a little low for me. I'm probably going to go for the over. I have them winning 12, 13 games, which is crazy because I'm talking about the Lions and Jared Goff, which is like even crazier. But I can't ignore how good their talent is on both sides of the ball. They have really good young talent.
So for the Lions, I think it's interesting because I feel like they're getting so hyped up. And like, yeah, they finished the season hot last year. It makes sense. But they almost annoy me a little bit. Why does everybody freak out about Jared Goff? And now he has to be in a top 10 quarterback list. When 1 year ago, everyone was like, he's not a top 20 quarterback. I was a lot higher on Jared Goff than most people before last season, saying, like, yeah, he's solid, he's whatever. Like, he's just an average quarterback. What does he do? He does average quarterback stuff with a good offense around him. And now, oh, he's top 10. The Lions' future is so great. They smoked the Rams in the Matthew Stafford trade. I don't know. Do you remember the Rams winning the Super Bowl? Because I remember that. So, in regards to Jared Goff and the Lions, this might be a hot take, but I don't even think Jared Goff is the future there. I think Hendon Hooker is going to be their future quarterback. And don't get me wrong, Jared Goff's going to be their quarterback all season long. He might probably be their quarterback next year. I still think Hendon Hooker is eventually going to take over that spot. And I think the Jared Goff hype is going to really die down because we're going to see he's the same guy he's always been. Like, stop acting like Jared Goff did a bunch of different stuff. He didn't. Look into the advanced analytics, look into stuff like that. He's the same guy. He's always been the same guy. So that's the part that drives me crazy.
Yeah, and it's just a wild world we're living in where Jared Goff, like I said, is a top 15 quarterback all of a sudden when his whole time with the Rams, minus like 2-3 years, he was garbage. And then his last year with the Lions, he was garbage. And then all of a sudden this past season, the reason that they're so hyped on offense is because of Ben Johnson. I think he's a great offensive coordinator. And similar to what Sean McVay did, I think he took a limited, lackluster quarterback in Jared Goff and made him the best version of himself, which credit to Ben Johnson. I think he did a great job, but do not count me among the Jared Goof enjoyers, if you will. Green Bay, another team in the NFC North, sitting at 7.5 wins. This win total, I mean, if you told me how good Jordan Love was, I could tell you how good this team is. He's just such a question mark at this point. He's such an unknown. He started one game. He's been in the league 3 years. He started one game. We've seen clips of training camp and clips of the preseason, but that isn't enough to really form an analysis on him. This season depends on Jordan Love, and depending how good he is if they win 7.5 games or not. I'm still going to probably go for the under because I don't think he's going to be that good. And winning 8 games for the Packers this year after losing Aaron Rodgers, and I think they only won 9 last year, that to me is a little high. I'd still go for the under, but it's really all depends on how good Jordan Love is.
Yeah, and that's just, you're right. You're exactly right. It's an unknown. We don't know how good he's going to be. We know that Matt LaFleur is a good coach. We know that they have an okay roster, I guess, but I mean, I still think they're a little bit away. Like, they're young, their wide receiver core is super young. They just drafted 2 tight ends who I really like. I really like Luke Musgrave and Tucker Kraft, but they're coming from small schools, Oregon State and was it South Dakota State or San Jose State, something like that. It's there's a lot of questions. Their defense is whatever. Are they going to be that good? Like, probably not. But if Jordan Love's good, then maybe they'll go over. If you're going to be safe, I'd probably just take the under on this. But like, it's a complete shot in the dark.
Yeah, it really is. And I'm glad because, the Packers have ran the North for 30 years pretty much with Favre and Rodgers. And I'm so glad for them to finally know what it's like to be in the basement. For the next one, I'm going to combine two teams from the AFC South. Both have a 6.5 win over under total. And I think they're going in different directions. The first team we're going to talk about is the Texans, 6.5. I think the Texans are going to go under 6.5 because I don't think CJ Stroud is going to be very good this year. We talk about rookie quarterbacks. He has no weapons, no proven weapons. Nico Collins, Xavier Hutchinson, John Mechie, they have not proven anything yet. The defense, I think, is still going to be bad. I understand they have D'Amico Ryans. I still think the defense is going to be bad. And I don't know if they'll be able to run the football consistently. I'm going to go under for Houston Texans. What do you think?
What did you say the win total was?
6.5.
Okay, 6.5. I think you probably go under to be safe, but I wouldn't be surprised if they outperform it. I really love the Texans' future. Not necessarily like this season. I like CJ Stroud a lot. He was my quarterback one in the class. Their defense, they go and they get Will Anderson Jr., superstar in the making. D'Amico Ryans is an amazing coach. I'm super excited to see him kind of take over and be able to run things on his own after just being a dominant defensive play caller for San Francisco. And now you look at it and you go, okay, well, how's this offense going to operate? They're going to spread it out, man. They're going to go four wide. Sometimes they'll have Dalton Schultz out there, kind of lined up in like a slot position. But they're
Yeah.
going to have Nico Collins, John Mechie, Robert Woods, Tank Dell, Xavier Hutchinson, Noah Brown. Like they have guys, like no one like that's like a wide receiver one, but they have a bunch of different pieces. And this whole year is going to be about developing Stroud on offense, letting him kind of adjust to the speed. They're probably going to start out slow, but if they finish the season hot, expect this team to potentially kind of be neck and neck with the Jags in the future. And I really think that. So I think they did it. I think what they did where they traded their first rounder, like it might look kind of bad this year, but they got the two guys they wanted. And a lot of teams are not able to do that. So I'm excited for the Houston Texans future. And they're one of the teams that I'm most looking forward to watch just to see how things operate there.
Yeah, yeah. I think the future is bright in Houston. Another place I think the future is bright is in Indianapolis. 6.5. Now, you're gonna call me crazy. You are gonna call me crazy. I'm gonna take the over for Indianapolis on 6.5. And this is the reason why. Anthony Richardson, he's gonna start the majority of the season. And while I don't think that he will be a great passer yet, the fact of the matter is that he has a skill that will immediately translate to the NFL. His athleticism and his size. Cam Newton in his rookie year was just running dudes over. They got to the goal line and it was an auto touchdown on QB power. It was an auto touchdown on read option. I think that he's going to be dominant running the football. I also think his weapons, Alec Pierce, Michael Pittman, Jelani Woods, are much better than CJ Stroud's, including Jonathan Taylor as the running back. I think the Colts defense has a difference maker in DeForest Buckner, which the Texans don't yet have. Obviously, that could be Will Anderson, and we expect that to be Will Anderson, but he's not that yet. I'm going to take the Colts to win approximately 7 to 8 games. I'm taking the over on Indianapolis.
Yeah, I'm taking the under easy. I think this is one of the easiest bets. Sorry, Mike. I think the Colts are going to be god awful. Uh, I think Anthony Richardson is going to be terrible this year. I don't know if he's going to be terrible in the future. There's a lot of question marks in regards to how he develops and stuff like that. But he is so raw as a prospect, being able to see the field and whatnot in that regard. Fantastic athlete, great runner. His accuracy gets kind of like talked about too much. The real issue with him is that he doesn't see progressions. His offense, his coaching staff, they were terrible. But that's hard to adjust to coming into the NFL and immediately starting. I think it's going to be an ugly, ugly offense, even though they have some guys, even though Michael Pittman's a proven wide receiver, Jonathan Taylor's been good, but let's see if he even plays, bro, because the Jonathan Taylor stuff has been strange.
That is true. I'm
Overall,
very
the
glad I
defense, they have a
traded him in
couple pieces.
fantasy. Yeah.
Yeah, their defense, like they have a couple pieces. You know, they got Buck. Like Buck is amazing. They have their defensive line, their front seven's pretty good. Shaq Leonard, stuff like that. But their secondary sucks too. Like I think they're gonna be bad, dude. I think they're gonna get kind of cooked in games, and I think they're gonna win like 4 or 5 games, like max. I think they're gonna be awful. I think they're gonna be really bad, and I think they're gonna be a contender for the number one pick. Potentially, maybe they end up getting, like 2 or 3, and they end up getting Marvin Harrison. So that might be a good thing for the future.
Going to where his dad played, that'd be sick.
Yeah, yeah. So it might end up being a better thing long term, but I think they're going to be a true rebuild this season.
All right, and then going to the Jacksonville Jaguars, their win over under total 9.5. I'm telling you, dude, I'm smashing the over. I am just smashing it. I love Trevor Lawrence. I love the offense. I love Doug Peterson. Their schedule is easy. Their division sucks for the most part. Give me the Jaguars 9.5. I'm putting my college savings on that, Matt.
I mean, the Jags are. I think you definitely take the over in that case. I don't think it's like a lock. I think that you should expect them to win double digits. If they won 9 games, I don't think they'd be that crazy. They could also win the division with 9 games. But the big thing with the Jags is Trevor Lawrence threw 25 touchdowns last year. He gets Calvin Ridley this year. He gets another year in the NFL. 35 plus touchdowns should be the expectation for him this year. And if he throws 35 plus touchdowns, they're probably winning 10 or more games. So it's going to come down to how much better can T-Law get. And I think he's going to keep getting better, man. I think it's going to be. I think the future is really nice in Jacksonville.
This is probably in the history of their franchise. This might be the best their futures ever looked, to be completely honest with you. Next, speaking of great futures, Kansas City has the best future because they have the best quarterback, Patrick Mahomes. Their win over under total, 11.5. I'm going to go over on this. I really can't see a world where Kansas City doesn't win 12 games, assuming Mahomes stays healthy. He's never missed a game, I don't think. So I'm going to take over, and I'm really not going to think twice about it.
Yeah, I think it's an easy over. What are you gonna do? You're gonna bet against the Chiefs? You're gonna bet against Mahomes, Andy Reid, Travis Kelsey? No, you're not. It's an obvious over, I think.
Yeah, it's really not much of a discussion there, I don't think.